I knew that I just needed to make some small changes, and I needed to do something that was sustainable. For me, at that time, the gym was not going to be sustainable. I'd look in the mirror, and I'd be like, I'm still 300 pounds. So I had to figure out something that was going to be sustainable, like a small step I could take that would guarantee if I continued to do it, it would give me the result I wanted to do. And for me, that was...
You're checking out the Investor Shed podcast with Nick Beveridge and Jeremy Kitchen. They're on the path to financial freedom, and they're taking their community with them. Stay tuned for the best free real estate investing advice on the internet.
Welcome to the Investor Shed podcast, episode 28 of season 3. I am your guest, Sean Little, and I'm here with your hosts, Jeremy Kitchen and Nick Beveridge.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Sean Little, welcome to the studio, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Our first threesome.
Yeah.
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 First threesome live, of course. You know, we had a lot that were, over the web.
Yes. Of course.
Sean, so before we get started, let's kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Well, my name's Sean Little. I am a
Tuck in the mic.
father of 3. I've got a wonderful wife named Morgan. Been in real estate now for about 3 years. Got into it in the middle of the pandemic. Started with Keller Williams, and now I'm with Real. I've got a couple investment properties. I enjoy basketball.
You play basketball?
I do.
But you don't play with us.
I know. I heard you guys play on Tuesdays. And
Yeah, you got to skip what you're doing and come play with us.
where do you guys play?
We'll talk after the show. We'll get you in for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, if you play basketball, man, we'd love to ball with you. I'd love to block you, actually.
Yeah.
My favorite thing's defense on that. I don't play a lot of offense.
I'm a defense guy, too.
Shots from everywhere.
I love it.
All I do.
You'll fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's break it down, man. So you started at Keller Williams. You're at
Yep.
Real Realty right now.
Real broker.
Real Broker. Perfect. Yeah, thank
LLC.
you. It's RRRB LLC. Got it.
Yep.
You got to speak into the mic a little bit more.
Okay.
It's barely picking you up.
Okay. Yeah, but just tell us a little bit about your investing career, if you don't mind.
Well, it started in 2021. My wife and I, we tried to get pre-qualified in 2020, and that didn't work out. We had a max budget of about $275, which didn't really, we couldn't buy much with that. And then we worked on that over the next year, and then we significantly increased that to closer to 500. We didn't want to go that high. And then we bought our primary residence in the Valley, Spokane Valley, in September of 21. And then we lived in that property for 2 years. In that time, we were able to acquire another property with my father-in-law. That was pretty cool. That's here in Cote. We turned that into an Airbnb for the summer, and that did pretty good in the summer of 23. And then we decided at the end of 23 that to kind of stabilize the property through the winter, we didn't want to try doing an Airbnb in the winter, and the midterm thing didn't quite appeal to us. My wife works at Cote as a cardiovascular surgical technologist, so we decided we were going to move to Coeur d'Alene, stabilize the property for the winter, and then rent out our property, our previous primary residence in the Valley, and then live in the Coeur d'Alene house. And then we recently picked up another property in Coeur d'Alene that was owned by my family, and kind of worked out a really cool deal that worked for all of us, kind of a win-win-win. And so, that's kind of where we're at. We've got the 3 properties now.
Nice.
Working on number 4. Going to partner with my buddy on a 2-bedroom, 1-bath that he already owns. I'm going to help him renovate it and then get it rented out. So
That's excellent. Yeah, I think that's awesome that you... you started not too long ago when properties were pretty expensive. I know you wanted to live in Idaho, but you just didn't have the budget for it. But what I love what you did is you just took action anyway and bought a house out where you could. Spokane Valley, not the worst area in Washington, decent place, and you did what you could. But what you didn't do is you didn't just settle and just rent a house forever, but you were able to capitalize on the low interest rates while they were there, right? Yeah.
That was super awesome.
How'd you qualify for that house, too? Because I know you're going back and forth between real estate and landscaping job, right?
Yeah, so I've worked on golf courses for the last 10, 11 years, and, excuse me. And so I got into real estate and I went full time when I started doing that, but I realized quickly that in order for me to qualify for a house, I had to have that W-2 income, or I had to be in real estate or really kick ass for the first year or two. And while I did fairly well my first year, I figured if I was to go back to a golf course, earn that W-2 income, I could qualify. Even though if it wasn't for too much, I would help us qualify for something.
Yeah.
We worked on that year from where we went from 275 to about 500 in qualifying. We paid off all of our consumer debt. We paid off my vehicle. So we had hardly any debt. And then, I was only making $17 an hour at the time. And that was able, along with my wife's income, that gave us the opportunity to buy. And so I went back to the golf course for about 6 months. They only need about 3 to get you qualified if it's in a job that you've been doing. Even though it's a seasonal job, the banks they know that it's a seasonal job.
Yeah.
And so they were able to qualify me. And then, honestly, about 2 weeks after we closed on the house, I put in my 2 weeks for that job and briefly went back to selling some real estate, closed on a couple deals, and then I tried, me and my best friend Josh Cote, we tried to start up a little landscaping company.
Yeah, I remember.
And to help
Tried hiring you a few times.
A couple times. A couple times it worked, a couple times it didn't. And did that and quickly realized that the transition from a golf course to landscaping, for me, the love wasn't there. I didn't love landscaping. It's just different, especially running your own business as opposed to just being on a golf course and going out and you know what you're going to do every single day. Whereas landscaping, you've got to generate your own business. You have to service that business, keep people happy, bid projects accurately, because that's the hardest thing when you're starting a business is just, making sure you're charging what you're worth and then producing a quality product as well. And so I decided to close that business out. Me and Josh, we just decided that we were going to stop doing that. And I went back to the golf course as I worked at Manitou Golf and Country Club on the South Hill of Spokane, and went back and did that for the summer of 2023 as the assistant superintendent there. And then in September we moved back to Cote, and I decided to really give real estate a shot, and kind of the best time ever to get back into real estate, and with the high interest rates and nobody's really wanting to buy. So
yeah,
I figured it was a good time to come in and kind of get my bearings, maybe establish a little bit of market share, and hopefully 2024 is very fruitful. So.
Yeah, I believe it will be, especially like the competition's going away. And I started in real estate 14 years ago when pretty much all the agents left the business, and then I got in not knowing that pretty much everyone left. The party was over, but it was a good opportunity for me to start fresh, build good habits, because if you've been in the business for the last 5 years, you probably don't have good habits of realistic expectations about how the real estate market works and stuff. But before we dive too deep into that, or go much more, I do want to dig into your landscaping business a little bit if we can later. But let's go right back. Go back a few more years. What first got you interested in real estate investing, and what made you motivated enough to do the things that you had to do and the sacrifices that you made to know that not many people put that much effort into buying a house? Yeah, you went above and beyond. Right.
Yeah, I was very intentional with that. I was just working. I had no intention of being in real estate. I had kind of thought about it off and on. I tried to buy houses a couple times, but it was in 2020. I knew close to nothing about real estate, and Kyra Bemis, she actually called me one day and asked me if I could install an irrigation system in her backyard.
Wow, Kyra was just on our show.
I know she was. But I had never installed an irrigation system for a residential property, but I knew how it worked. I knew what to do, so I agreed to do it. She needed it done in 8 days, from start to finish. She needed her whole backyard completely landscaped. We got sod in there, curbing done, and I agreed to it, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, but over those 8 days, I spent a lot of time with Kyra, and she talked to me. We talked a lot about real estate, obviously, because that's what she did. And me being a little bit nosy, I looked on her counter and I saw a check for quite a bit of money. And
How much money?
It was a little over 19,000.
Nice.
Just a single check, and I asked her about it, and I was like, "What is that?" And
It wasn't on display or anything. It was just laying around.
it was an uncashed check just sitting on her counter. And,
Oh, nice.
I thought that was pretty cool. She's a very open person.
Yeah, she's very. I wouldn't dig deeper if I didn't know Kyra was very open about her finances.
Kyra,
Like she'll whip out her P&L in front of everyone, and she doesn't care. She's very open book.
and that was awesome. Her being super candid about that, and just about a lot of the elements of real estate. I got interested really quick, and then she actually she started working with us briefly and showed us some houses. We wrote a couple offers, but again, we were maxed out at 275, and people were they were clobbering us on bids, and so we kind of reassessed. But at that time, she had invited me to an open what do they call it at Keller Williams, an open
Career night.
Excuse me. Yeah. So I went to a career night.
Okay.
I actually brought Josh Cote with me.
Really?
Yep. We went to career night, and that's where he met Tyler, and then they connected.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And then I decided to get my license, and Kyra actually, she pushed me to get my license, and I did that, and then, yeah, I mean, that's what got me into real estate. It was just it was just by chance. And obviously Kyra was doing her job. She's a real estate agent. She was talking to me about real estate, and she introduced me to it, and it was something that I had never really put a lot of thought into. And then as I started digging and reading books and just listening to podcasts and all that, I realized that real estate was going to be. I'm not particularly intelligent. So I don't have I'm not going to be a doctor or anything like that. So I figured this was kind of my way to gain some wealth and maybe kind of, give my family a better opportunity at kind of, doing all the fun things, going on vacations and experiencing a life that otherwise I probably wouldn't be able to, provide for them.
And I don't think you shared yet, but how did you meet Kyra initially?
She was my general manager at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Okay.
I worked at Tomato Street, and I needed to pick up some extra shifts. I was going on a vacation, and I wanted to work 2 jobs. I did that a lot, and I worked at Tomato Street and Buffalo Wild Wings simultaneously, and she was my GM there, and she actually quit as I was leaving to go into real estate full time. I think it was January or February of 2019. But I didn't even think about her for 2 years after that. And then when me and my wife, that's actually, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. We had been looking, so when I thought of, when me and my wife were talking about looking at homes, I called Kyra and I asked her some questions.
Okay.
And she had told me, because she was the only real estate agent I knew. I didn't know anybody in the real estate space. And so I called her up and I asked her some questions. She gave me some answers. And then, I think she followed up with me maybe a few weeks later asking if I knew how to install it. Because I think I told her that I worked at Fairchild as an irrigation tech. And that's when she called me about the sprinklers. So
That's awesome. Yeah. It's funny, it's a small world because it's not like you didn't come on this podcast because you knew Kyra. It just happened to be.
It's crazy. I was talking to Josh and I told him, or we were just talking, and I said, I wonder what it's like. At what point do you think Jeremy and Nick would invite me onto the podcast, or could I be invited onto the podcast? And within 24 hours, Jeremy had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be on the podcast, and it was called Josh up, and I'm like, dude, Jeremy just reached out, asked me if I wanted to be on the podcast, and he's like, you willed that in real time. And it was wild.
Yeah.
So
honestly, you probably just made that come into existence by wishing it, right?
Yeah.
You've been on our radar to talk to for a while, and it was just one of those things. I saw you starting to make content, and once I started seeing you make a social appearance, I was like, okay, he's ready, right?
Yeah.
We're so happy you're here, and I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, if you didn't see that check, would you have had any interest in real estate?
I think so. I think with all the conversations we had been talking about it, and seeing that check was, my checks were $1,500-$1,600 every 2 weeks. So when I saw that, I was like, that's just powerful. That's like you can, and obviously there's, she's paying expenses, she has an overhead to pay, and so she's not taking home all of that, but she's taking home a good chunk of that. Mm-hmm. And that's that's enticing. I mean, it's like, how can I do that? You know, that's, for me, that's 6 months of pay at, you know, at a typical W-2 job in the field that I was working in. So, seeing that was very alluring. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you stumble upon a big check, and then you're like, I got to do something different to sum it all up.
Yeah. Essentially.
So that's what got you interested in real estate sales. But what got you interested in investing in real estate, being an investor? Because that's two different things.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes hand in hand. When I think of a real estate agent, and I started doing the agent, you know, day-to-day agent work, I realized quickly that if you're going to be an agent, you might as well be investing. Like, they go hand in hand. You're helping people on the retail side buy and sell homes, but at the same time, there's people who invest, and I feel like it's a surefire way to build your wealth if you're willing to buy and hold and figure out how, you know, not to lose money on that side. But over time, property appreciates. Over 10-year time horizon, it's never depreciated. And so I figured if I could figure out how to put the pieces together and just purchase a property and hold it as long as I can, I was going to be able to build wealth.
Yeah.
With, you know, loan pay down, depreciation, all that. So.
Gotcha. So you understood that early, because there's a lot of real estate agents out there that still don't own property.
Almost immediately. I saw it. I actually tried to. We had a deal come through. I was on Jason Walker's team when I first got into the business, and we had a deal come through, and I immediately knew that it was like it was a great deal. And I called Josh up, and I was like, hey, how do we buy this? Like,
yeah,
we had no money, and he's like, well, this is what we got to do. We can get hard money, put in an offer, and that's what we did. But Jason, he was a listing agent, and he quickly realized that the house was listed a little too low.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get it. I did actually end up representing the buyer, so that was cool. But we didn't get it to. It wasn't until like a year after that I finally was able to purchase the house. But yeah, I realized very quickly. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest hacks out there. If you're obsessed with real estate and you want to invest someday, and you consider being an agent, but you're like, I don't really know if I want to be an agent long term. I don't know if I want to do that job, but it's still like you got to do a job somewhere. So why not have a job in real estate sales while you invest in real estate? Because you can pick up the crumbs.
Yep.
You can pick up random deals that never hit the market.
Right.
That should, but you know, you get first look as a real estate agent if you're doing your job right. And I just think it's an incredible hack not many people talk about, and I think people should talk about it more. Like you gotta do something for regular income, and when you're investing in real estate, the income is less than regular.
Yeah, and if you're gonna, especially if you're willing to put in the work as an agent, the income potential is amazing. And I haven't quite hit that point where my income from my being an agent has, you know, been a ton, but through this, I've been able to take the income that I do earn and allocate it towards investment properties. And at the end of the day, it's more so about where your net worth lands, right? Building your net worth, because your income can be great, but you know, people spend money as fast as they make it. And if I can, if I can make that money and then park it immediately and not give myself that temptation of spending it on some stupid stuff, and invest that money in the place that I understand. I don't understand stocks. I've got a pretty good idea of how real estate works at this point. So I figure all the active earning income I make, that I have, all the additional income I have, is going to be allocated to investing in properties.
A plan now when the income comes in, where your money flows?
Not entirely. Right now, it's kind of
I know you're just transitioning back into being an agent again.
We just allocate the excess to real estate, and that's whether it's in purchasing another property. Right now, we've got things that we want to do to each one of the properties we own, just to improve them and make sure that they are. I don't want to ever have a tenant in a property that's like falling apart, or things that are going wrong, and I want to improve on it as they're there, and just do things, you know, to make it nicer for them, to encourage them to want to stay, and it also increases the value of my property. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We've been as we have the income coming in, set aside a little bit for taxes, and then the rest of it we just putting into the property.
Sorry.
Am I speaking into it?
Not enough. You guys got to just be talking like Sorry, I'll edit this slightly, but your bars are barely moving, so you guys got to be like talking into it a little bit better. 'Cause this is just not going to pick up well.
My voice decided to go out.
That's okay. All good.
Poor Jeremy's not.
No, yeah, we're good. I'll sneak in when I need.
I'll normalize the audio levels. It'll help a little bit, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we go back a little bit now?
Yeah.
Buying that first house, was that the first house you ever bought?
First house I ever bought.
Okay, so how much income did you have to make, and what kind of loan did you get? How much did you put down? Do you remember all those details?
I do. So I was making 17 an hour, which comes out to about 34 and some change a year, 34,000 and some change. My wife was making 21. She had 21 an hour.
Okay.
So
Wow.
collective, we were making 38, which, that's decent. And it was enough for us to, I was also transacting in real estate.
Okay.
I sold, I think it was 13 or 14 properties my first year. So I had some money saved up, and I was able to put enough down for a 3% conventional. And that totaled out to about 17,000, I think a little bit more than 17,000 after closing costs, on a $358,000 home.
358. Okay.
358. Yep. We had to actually go 29,000 over list to get the property
Okay. Yeah, it was during that time then.
during that time. But we went conventional, super clean terms. I was really aggressive. I represented myself on it. I was really aggressive. We knew we wanted the place. It had a downstairs that was it was in pretty rough shape, and I knew I could add a lot of value by going in and refinishing it and just making it nice and pretty, paint, new flooring and all that, brand new bathroom. But yeah, that was $38 an hour got us into our first home.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's so hard to live off that. And I guess it's maybe it wasn't until like the last year or two where it seems like everything doubled in price.
Yeah.
But I know that like when we first started hiring people on our team, like admin, back a few years ago, we were starting around like $14 an hour.
Yeah, which was super competitive.
Yeah, it was.
That was yeah.
Kind of regular, but like I remember after I think it was during 2021, towards the end of 2021 or early 22, we upped our admin salaries to in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Just to compensate for how ridiculous everything was getting, but we were able to afford it because the pricing of houses went up.
Right.
And so we were able to pay people more. But do you think if you were doing that same job, is it still 17 an hour or has it gone up?
No, I mean, I had gotten a few promotions during that time. I was the assistant superintendent at Manitou, and I had got a promotion for that, and that comes with a lot of overtime. So I think when I left, I was making 22, but with the overtime, it averaged out to about 25 an hour.
Okay.
And so that was solid. My wife, since she has been a surgical tech, that was her initial pay rate. She's been doing it now for a little bit over 2 years. She specializes in hearts, and her pay has increased almost doubled. So
That's good. It should.
yeah,
That kind of work.
She has our income has gone up significantly in that time.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been able to. She was actually able to buy the property we just closed on all by herself. We only financed half of the purchase price, but she was able to do it all on her own with making her salary.
And that's because you guys have a low debt to income ratio. You guys don't have many other debts, right?
We have a couple of their debts. We have both of our vehicles. I bought a truck 2 hours after we closed on our first property.
Sean.
Did that on finance, but it wasn't the smartest move.
I can't say anything. I did the same thing.
Yeah, and so we've got a couple things, a couple little debts, but for the most part, her debt is super clean. She's got her vehicle and I think one card, and that's it. So she was able to qualify. I think we came in quite a bit under what she qualified for too, and so we got a decent rate. We got 6.75 interest rate on it, so I feel like right now that's pretty good. So
Okay.
yeah.
So what kind of deal you said you worked out a deal with your father-in-law,
Yes.
Morgan's dad?
Yep.
Buying a property in Cote that had multiple units, right?
Yes,
And I think you did a lot of the work fixing it up.
I did.
What kind of terms did you negotiate with your father-in-law, and how's it been the last year and a half, 2 years?
It's been all right. he and I decided to kind of go in business together and buy some property.
So it worked out.
What's that?
So it worked out.
It's worked out. Yeah.
Okay.
There's been some. We're both stubborn guys, so there's been some bumps and bruises along the road, but I think we've kind of got it figured out now. He decided he's just been renting forever, and so I've been, ever since I got into real estate, trying to talk him into, putting his money to work, and instead of renting, buy a home. He was only paying like $1,100 a month for rent, and his income was quite, he could easily afford that. That was probably 15% of his, monthly take home. And so he decided to bring the capital. I told him I could find a property, negotiate the deal, and fix it up, and then rent it out and take care of most of that. We were exploring different options, but at the end of the day, we identified this property in Cote. It had an ADU in the back with a little studio with a bathroom. Easily there, we can set up a kitchen. We've got kind of a Jimmy rig kitchen in there now. It's working fine. And then it's got an actual studio, like a loft thing above that. So it's kind of a super weird, janky setup. We could probably add another unit. You've actually been there and you said, hey, we could probably make another unit here.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the route we're going to go. I don't think we can get it. It's not, there's nobody from the county listening to this, right? Watching this?
We don't know.
It's
No,
not
they don't know the address on Melrose or anything.
We found out the ADU wasn't. We found out the ADU wasn't permitted. The previous owner, he had pulled permits for a garage and decided he was going to build an ADU and all this. It's a very jangly building, but it's really cool, and that's kind of why we pursued it. He actually lives back in the studio. My father-in-law lives in the studio right now, and then we live in the main house.
Okay.
And that's been working out very nice. It's like we said, it's stabilized the property and it's afforded us the opportunity to pursue other investments as well.
So what was the deal that you guys worked out then? Do you remember?
So, what do you mean on Melrose itself? On the property?
Yeah, like who brought the money, who's doing the work, what kind of ownership percentage?
So
do you mind sharing those details? You don't have to if you don't want to. But I just for those out there that just they may have a similar situation where they have a father-in-law or father that has money. Also, same situation. Maybe they can partner with somebody.
Yeah, so
he do the same thing.
He brought the funds. It took $27,000 and some change to close. We did negotiate. I think we got $10,000 on seller concessions for the property, so that covered our closing costs. And then that $27,000 covered the 5%. We went conventional, and then what I brought was obviously once we closed, I worked on the property. He did purchase the furniture as well. I paid for a lot of the rehab costs and the things associated with that, and then I connected us. I got us set up for property management with a local company that hosts for Airbnb and VRBO. So that's kind of we're 50-50. We just cut it down the middle. And as we grow, that might change a little bit. I don't know. We still just have the one property. We might quit claim this Maidenstone, this newer property, into the business as well and kind of just lump it all together. So it just kind of keeps it easier to keep track of. But for now, it's just the one property. And then we are planning on, we have it structured to where hopefully we can buy another one for him this year, and then he'll house hack it and going to try and buy like a small multifamily, like a duplex or triplex or something like that.
Okay.
And then in that case, he would move into one side, and then I would help him renovate it and get renters in. So
Okay.
kind of do long term. We definitely prefer long term after our experience with short term for now.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
It's a large home, and it's a lot for.
Yeah. Short-term rentals are just so much work. I'm with you, man. Like we really tried on like 4 different properties to make it work.
Yeah.
And
property was amazing though.
yeah, some of them worked out really well, but it's just not like a long-term rental. By long-term rentals, like you barely hear from people, and the checks just keep coming in for the most part. Yeah. But with short-term rentals, you're always on edge. Like, are we going to have bookings this month? Am I going to be able to pay my bills this month? Am I going to be able to pay my bills this month? We'll see. It's not. You're constantly selling and constantly watching this thing and constantly replacing lamps.
There's just so much active work that goes into managing a short-term rental or a mid-term rental as opposed to a long-term. Like, you do a lot of upfront work, stick the tenant in there, and they pay their rent magically.
Yeah, it's magic. You're solving a need.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to the basics.
So I want to ask a question here too, real quick. Sean, I know you talked a little bit about parking your money before you invest and just having your kind of nest egg built up. Like, what are you doing to build that up? And I know you said you put every excess dollar goes into like an investing fund, but are you parking in like a high yield, or is it just like a savings account? Or
right now we have a savings account that gives us, I think it's 5% back. It's like a first savings through STCU. So we've been parking our money in there and just letting that grow a little bit. The big thing right now is when the Melrose house, we put a lot of, we funded a lot of that with some cards and stuff. And I know that's not, it's not usually, but it's one of our first investments, and we did what we needed to do. We didn't have a lot of liquid cash when we closed. I mean, it took $50,000+ for us to get that property purchased, furniture.
Yeah, and furniture's not cheap.
And like, the renovation costs. So we ended up putting some of that on credit. I'm sorry, but you're good, yeah. But we do have that 5% savings through STCU. I would like to see a little bit better return on that, but it's not the worst. I mean, it's a decent little return.
Right. And your money's making a little bit of money. So that's kind of what I was asking. Like, it's not just sitting somewhere where, it's in a checking account making 0.02% 2% interest, something like that. But just going off that a little bit too. So, you save your money, you buy all these properties, and whether you buy them on credit or not, I don't think that matters, honestly, Josh. Sean, sorry. We were talking about Josh Cote just a second ago.
Yikes.
I did, yeah. Sean Little, everybody, my bad.
Yeah. Okay. We call Jeremy High Yield Kitchen.
Yeah, lately. I'm the high yield boy over here.
And we'll call you Josh now.
Even if you're using it on a credit card, you're still making the right choices, right? Because even if you're putting it on a credit card, eventually your money's going to pan out for you in real estate. Like credit cards you can pay off, right? Right. Are you able to get a house if you don't have a credit card? Who knows? That doesn't matter. But like, do the things you need to do in order to move you forward. So I think you're doing a good job on that.
Good job. Okay. Good job. Yeah, sorry. Inside jokes are horrible on podcasts, so I'll stop. I'm going to really stop to do inside. I'm going to stop it. Okay. So let's move on. So you got that property. Your experience with short-term rentals was blah. Like, you did make some money though. You mentioned
some money. Yeah, it wasn't like a terrible summer. I think July we brought in, before expenses, almost $10,000. So that was a decent July, but that's just July. June was like 4, and I think August was 6.
Okay.
But aside from that, it was pretty.
How long did you let it run before you decided to stop doing a short term?
We did it 8 months, and the only reason we decided to stop was because we wanted to move into Cote. Morgan had just got a job at Cote.
Yep.
I wanted to get closer to Keller, so that I could not have to travel so far to work, and it just made sense for us to move into Cote, and we were able to reduce our expenses significantly, and we cut them in half by making that move, which was a big deal for us, and it allows us to pursue other things and not just spend so much money paying, what we were doing in Spokane. So we let it ran a little shorter than we wanted to. We wanted to test out the winter to see what would happen, but at the end of the day, I think stabilizing it and just not taking that risk was probably a better move. I mean, especially since we were able to, like I said, cut our expenses in half by making that move. So
yeah. Okay, cool. So you're making the transition back to Coeur d'Alene. Tell us about the brand new property that you're getting from family and how you're able to structure that.
So that one's really cool. My grandma and my grandpa, they purchased that property in 2004. It was brand new.
Nice neighborhood too.
Yeah, it's in Echo Glen, right underneath Canfield Mountain. I absolutely love the property. It's a nice corner lot. And my grandfather passed away in 2005, and then my grandma passed away about 2-3 years ago. And when she passed away, it was trusted over to my uncles and my mother, so her children. And one of my uncles, he's special needs, so my uncle and then my mother live there as well. They kind of take care of him, and since none of them are married, it just makes sense. It's like a little family house, but it's falling apart. They're getting older. They're almost in their, well, 2 of them are in their 60s. They can't really, it's a large home, so some things are falling apart. The roof's in some rough shape. The fence is completely falling apart. The furnace is going out, and they're not super savvy with the repairs and what to do and this and that. So I've kind of been going back and forth with even making an offer on the property, or telling them like what I could do to help them in this situation, because I'm not going to, I don't have the funds to just come out and give them $50,000, $60,000 to do these repairs. And it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to do that for something that I don't own part of. It just wouldn't be a good decision on that side. Now I would if I could, but so I came up with like a plan on how I could purchase that property from them and allow them to stay in it. The trust was designed so that my handicapped uncle, he would always have a home to stay in. And my grandparents wanted to make sure that was never an issue. And so I purchased the property. And they're going to stay in it indefinitely as long as they need to. And they were able to put money in their pockets. I'm able to, now I have quite a bit of equity in that home, so I can use that to leverage on purchasing other properties. And so it turned out to be a win-win-win for everybody. They have money in their pockets. They're not worried about, I'm going to go through and fix up that property slowly, and take care of the things that need to be taken care of first. We're actually going to get started on that next week. But yeah, it's been an awesome deal.
Nice. Okay, cool. And so congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
This is property number 3, unit number 4,
Yes.
5-ish potentially.
Yeah.
And you've come a long way, man.
Thank you.
You were cutting grass just a couple, 2-3 years ago.
I was cutting grass last year.
Well, you know what I mean.
I keep going back to grass. I love grass.
And you but yeah, that's the thing though. You love being on a golf course.
I do.
You're good at golf. And
I'm pretty bad at golf, but I like
better than me.
grass. Yeah.
Everyone's better than me.
Yeah.
I suck at golf
It's a hard
real
game,
bad.
man. It's the hardest
Yeah.
game there is.
Hey, quick commercial break here. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate it. If you want to give back, let me help you buy a house, or I can help you sell a house. It's the only way I make money when I'm not investing in real estate. I don't make money on this podcast or the events I do, but I do make money only when I help people buy and sell houses. So if you're looking for your next investment and you're here in North Idaho, I want to help you personally. If you are not in North Idaho, I can still help you out. I have a vast network of referral partners all across the country in Keller Williams Realty, and I can find the right real estate investor savvy agent for you so you don't have to. Doesn't cost you a thing. Thank you for your support. Back to the show. But I want to talk a little bit about mindset, if you don't mind. And Jeremy, you got a question?
Yeah. I was just going to ask a real quick question. So this one's dealing specifically with dealing with family and buying a property. I think it's a taboo subject for a lot of people, right. Sean, because you don't want to strain these relationships. You don't want to have anything bad happen. And that's why typically people don't negotiate with family. Yeah. I want to ask, what you did. Obviously, you put money in their pocket, right, which was important to them. But what securities are they having? I mean, you're using the equity in this property is what you'd like to do, right? So use that equity to buy a new thing, which totally makes sense. I get it. But what happens if they A, stop paying rent, or what happens if they B, just trash the place even more? You don't plan on these things, but do you have a exit strategy in case that happens?
So yeah, our current mortgage on the property is significantly less than market value for rent. If they were to go and trash the property, they wouldn't do that. They keep a pretty tidy house. Aside from it falling, the CapEx items, and those are the roof, the furnace, the fence, those bigger things falling apart. The house is in great shape. I mean, it was built 20 years ago. It's not. They're not going to damage it. And so, if they were to stop paying rent, and I needed to evict them, or that would be a messy. I don't think that would ever happen. They're good people. I like to think that I'm a good person, so I tried to do right by them. Sure. And the reason I was super hesitant to even offer them anything for the property. I think they were leaning towards listing it regardless, and I told them, hey, this is what I can do. If this doesn't work for you, let me know. I had no hard feelings either way. I wanted to just get first dibs, if you will, to kind of creating an offer and trying to figure out something that works for them. I paid only, I think, $20,000 less than appraised value. So it's not like they gave me a house by any means. They did work with me on terms, and part of those terms is they get to live in the house for as long as they want. And they give me a seller carry for, I believe, $285. So they're seller carrying, and that's zero interest, zero payments for 10 years. And that's secured by a promissory note that we decided not to file. And the reason we didn't file it, they have it. It's just sitting in a cabinet, and I have a copy of it. And it's going to sit there. And if in 10 years I don't pay them, what they're owed, they can take that down to title, and that becomes like a legit document, and it's dated from 2023. It's not dated from when they take it. It's dated from, so then they can start collecting interest on that. But brain fart here.
No, you're good. So I'm going to wheel it back in a little bit too. So obviously you got this equity. Like is your plan? Would you think it's going to be to refinance it and then just pull out like a cash out refi and then get it stabilized, or would you use it as like a hard money lender for cross collateralization type of thing? Like, do you have a what's your strategy going forward with it?
So I think I'm going to do a refi on it. We're going to do a cash out. Well, let me backtrack. We're going to first do a HELOC on it. So we're going to do a HELOC. And I'm going to take that HELOC, I'm going to fix up the furnace, I'm going to fix up the fence, and then I'm actually going to fix the roof on one of my other properties. And then we're going to pay off all of our consumer debt with that. And what that'll do is our monthly expense on that consumer debt it'll all go down. Like we'll be paying less because of that HELOC. And then hopefully I'm banking on rates dropping. Sure. I think the Fed just said they're going to drop rate, or it's going to come down 275 basis points, or that's the expectation by Q3 of next year, around there. And if that happens, then I'll be able to refi the property, and I'll be paying marginally a little bit more than I'm currently paying in this scenario, with debt paid off, new furnace, new roof, new fence, and we'll be in a much better position. And then I actually want to allocate a little bit of that towards my other property, some of that HELOC, because it'll get us we'll have a 20% LTV on the property. Nice. And then that'll remove our PMI. And so we'll start cash flowing. We're only cash flowing like $40 a month on that property right now, which isn't a lot, but by the end of this year, I'm hoping it's cash flowing closer to 600. There's an escrow shortage that was assessed. They didn't do the taxes right in escrow, so we're paying that down. And once that's paid off, and then I can get the PMI removed, we'll be cash flowing $500 to $600 a month on that property. So all in all, that HELOC is that equity in the property is gonna allow us to reduce our expenses even more by about $500 a month, and then we'll be cash flowing on our other property about $600 a month. So it's gonna give us, and then it's just gonna give us a lot of freedoms and allow us to pursue other things. So.
Love it.
Okay. Real quick, I'm just gonna, for the audience that have no idea what you're talking about. You said a lot of things there. You said PMI, escrow account shortage, all these things that maybe some people have no idea what you're saying. So I'm just gonna, in case you're interested out there, an escrow account is it's a separate account that your mortgage holder has for you to pay your taxes and insurance on your behalf, because they want to make sure that stuff gets paid. Yeah. And it's highly regulated, and it's got to have just enough in there to pay those bills, but not too much. And so sometimes they have a shortage, and sometimes your payment could go up. Sometimes they have too much, a surplus, and your payment, after a year or so could go down a little bit, depending on what your taxes and insurance does. So that's an escrow account for those that don't know. And then when you say PMI, private mortgage insurance, that's part of your mortgage if you have less than 20%, or if you have less than 20% equity in a property, and that is either in the form of just private mortgage insurance. It's like a separate insurance company that the mortgage company is dealing with, and you make those premiums, payments extra on top of your mortgage that gets that just gets baked into the loan and baked in the payment. And then that could also be in the form of FHA. Like if you have an FHA loan, they call it. So that does not go away on an FHA loan, even if you have more than 20% equity. You just have to refinance to another product.
There was a brief period in like the mid 2010s.
Yeah, where it would go away. But now it's like impossible to get the PMI taken off of an FHA loan. You can't do it, so you just have to refi into a conventional if you have that 20% loan value of the property. So, and if you have a VA loan, it's called the guarantee fee. VA guarantee, unless you're disabled, then there is no PMI.
Actually, the VA loan doesn't have PMI to my knowledge at all.
Okay.
I don't even think
they used to have a guarantee.
I don't even think you need a rating anymore.
Okay. That's new to me. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And then if you're getting a USDA loan, which we hardly see those anymore because of price points and qualifications, but that was also called a guarantee fee, like an annual fee that is like a mortgage payment. So, sorry, I just wanted to, for those that don't understand what you're saying, I just thought we'd break it down just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about your mindset journey if we don't mind, over the last couple of years? Because for those that don't know you, you physically changed as a person as well. You look way different than you did a couple 2-3 years ago. You used to be a very big guy.
9 months ago.
And now you're looking good, man. Got to tell you, pretty attractive.
Thank you.
Not like you weren't attractive before, but like you're like a bear. Now you're like a leopard.
Rar.
So tell us, how'd you become a leopard?
Can be a tricky thing. I get seasonal depression. I think like a lot of people do, whatever you would call that, with the winters here.
Yep.
I'm originally from California, transplant about 18 years ago, and it's been kind of a thing. I struggle in the winter. So when I actually met my wife, I was not a bear. I was in really good shape. And then just over the course of trying to kind of figure out the finances and, my career and navigating children, I lost myself in my health, taking care of myself.
Okay.
I overate a lot. And I packed on a ton of weight, but over that time I've been listening to books and listening to things and kind of trying to figure out how to take better care of myself. And it wasn't until Josh Cote looked at me and said, if you don't figure this out and lose weight, you're going to die, and you're going to die a lot younger than you need to. And I took that to heart. I had also jumped on the scale like a day or two later, and it said 300 pounds, and that hurt. And so I decided literally that day that I was going to change, and I was going to take better care of myself. And that's what I've been doing. I was 300 pounds, and I've lost about 80 pounds so far. And it's been kind of a road. At first it was very slow, and then I picked up a lot of steam, losing 20 pounds a month. And through that, cause I was in a terrible headspace. I was, in probably the worst mental health state I've ever been in when I was heavy. And that's I think that comes with it. It's you're not mentally all there. And so as I've lost the weight, I've gotten, I've become clear, my head's become clear, and I've been able to kind of accelerate and compound on the health. When I started 75 Hard, that kicked it into overdrive. And now it's like, I try to find all these little ways to just do better by myself and take care of myself better. Like, what can I cut out? I was drinking 2 energy drinks a day, bangs. So I was drinking probably 600 milligrams of caffeine every single day. And I need
with or without coffee.
I would have coffee in there too sometimes.
Nice.
So, it was bad. So, and that was just to get through the day. I'd be staying up late watching some Survivor and getting up early. I worked, when I got to the golf course, it was 6 a.m. So I'd be up at 5:15, and I barely slept. I ate like crap. I didn't exercise, and I've changed all of that. I still go to bed kind of late. I'm a night owl. I go to bed about midnight every night, but I've been getting plenty of sleep. I sleep till like 8. Sorry guys, I know you guys are up at 4:00 every day, but I don't do that, at least not yet. But I've been exercising twice a day as mandated by 75 Hard, and that's been great. And then my eating is like night and day. I eat so much cleaner. I don't eat any added sugar. This is my snack. This is like my indulgent treat, my Americano with light cream, no flavoring.
Gross. There's no sugar in there though.
There's no sugar in it.
Okay.
There might be a little bit of sugar. I asked for light cream, so I think milk has a negligible amount of sugar in it, but it's super.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
So you mentioned right from the start when I asked you about this that somebody gave you a wake up call. It was Josh Cote.
Yeah.
We got shout out to Josh Cote because he also, like, when he joined my team, I was not looking like this either.
Yeah, you look great too.
Oh, thank you. But he encouraged me to actually lift weights. Yeah. And I didn't lift weights before I met him, and he was kind enough to train me, and we went to the gym every other morning or so for a long time until it just became a habit and a routine, and I just feel so much better, and it's thanks to Josh.
Yeah.
Josh has got me on the, and he's one that introduced me to 75 Hard as well.
Yeah.
First time I did it, I failed like 45 days in, but then did it again last summer. Worked. It works better when you're doing it with somebody.
Yeah.
and now I'm doing it again, even though it's -5 out today. But my weather app says it feels like -27.
Yeah, that
with
wind
the
chill is real. Oh my gosh.
So we got to go out working out after this, which is going to be fun.
I went on my walk last night at 11 o'clock at night, and it was like 7 degrees, but the wind chill made it feel -10 or something.
Yeah.
And it was brutal. I had to run to warm up.
So what I've recognized is it's important to get the right people around you, because what got you interested in real estate was Kyra. Yeah. And she was the one that gave you a wake-up call with her $19,000 check sitting on the counter like it was no big fucking deal. Yeah. And then Josh gave you a wake-up call and said, dude, stop being so fucking fat.
Essentially, having people to just tell you how it is, too, it's huge in your life. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people don't want to be mean. My wife was like, that's so mean. And I'm like, no, it's what I needed to hear. Like, real people like that.
Yeah. And no matter what I think, I know everything I have today is because of other people. It's because of other people that I've encountered that have influenced me to do things. And I'm not self-made. I don't think anybody is.
No.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the beginning of your health journey, Sean. So you said, you were 300 pounds, overweight, depressed. That first initial push has got to be the hardest, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like before you get into the consistent action of doing the thing. And when you first start a journey like this, you don't see results right away, right? No, it takes weeks and weeks of change, but I think that's the transformative part in my honest head. Like if you can get over the hump, you're going to be successful. Do you have any advice on, getting over that initial scare, the fear, the hurdle, in health journey, in real estate, in whatever it is? Like, how do you move past that?
Yeah. When I had started it, I thought I was going to be fat for the rest of my life. I have heavier set. My father was heavier set. My mother's, she's not too heavy, but I thought I was just going to be fat. And I didn't think there was a way to kind of come back from that where I was at. And I knew that I just needed to make some small changes, and I needed to do something that was sustainable. For me at that time, the gym was not going to be sustainable. I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, I'm still 300 pounds. Mm-hmm. So I had to figure out something that was going to be sustainable, like a small step I could take that would guarantee if I continued to do it, it would give me the result I wanted to do. And for me, that was fasting. Like I had to learn how to fast because I was eating so much and so frequently that I just needed to get a handle on something. Like I said, the gym just didn't seem realistic to me at the time. I didn't have the motivation. I didn't have the willpower to do that. And so I was like, what do I have the willpower to do? And it's like, I can stop stuffing my face every single morning. First thing when I wake up, stop sucking down energy drinks, stop with the sugar. And so I did that. I wouldn't eat till noon. And then I'd stop eating about 7. And I did that. And it took me a couple weeks to get good at that because you're hungry. When you're 300 pounds, and you're eating a lot, you're eating and you want to eat. And so once I got a handle on that, I lost 5 pounds the first couple weeks, which was awesome. But then it accelerated because it became easier to do. I was like, okay, I can do this. This is not that hard. And so once I started to get really consistent and intentional about it, I started to push my fasting windows longer and longer, as long as I could do without it hurting. Mm-hmm. And next thing I knew, I had dropped 40 pounds over the course of the next 2 months. Literally went from 300 pounds to sub 260 in 2.5 months. And that was it was huge. And that's fasting is something I will do for the rest of my life. It'll never change. Even if I stop going to the gym and exercising, I know I'm not going to get to that point ever again because I've developed a habit that I know I can maintain. The gym, I'd love to maintain that. And I've done that periodically throughout my life, but this was my 5th fat. I call it my 5th fat. I'm on my 5th or 6th skinny now. Okay. So I'm hoping that it never goes back to that. I hope I can get rid of my fat clothes. I've kept them because I always end up getting fat again.
Yeah, you got to burn those.
Yeah,
burn the bridges.
Yeah, I would say honestly, I'd just get rid of them as soon as possible, because you're in my head, you're holding on to the notion that you could be overweight again, right? And if you get rid of that notion, there's no other option other than having skinny clothes.
Yeah.
And that's just me coming from an outsider's perspective, of course, on it. Yeah. But if you throw away those clothes, you're damn sure not going back to that because you don't have a safety net to go back to anymore, right? I cut out energy drinks too, so I've only been about 2 months free of energy drinks, but I can say the health benefits have been great for me.
And I miss having my Bang and my Monster every single day. Every single day.
Yeah, I've got a couple in the fridge here.
Nick's still got some, so we're good there. But
Yeah,
gracious host,
I
yeah,
have
for
two
sure.
for you guys.
But like cutting out those sugars, like you said, Sean, because that's part of the problem.
They're
It's healthy,
sugar-free.
right? I know they're sugar free, but like the carbonation and just all the other stuff in them.
Well, and the insulin spike that it comes from that is, I think your body still reacts. It says zero sugar, but I think your body still reacts to whatever is doing it. Like there is something in there that spikes your insulin, which is what sugar does.
Yeah,
And
of
so when
course.
you're getting that.
I'm not.
that
And by the
insulin's
way,
getting smacked.
I'm not in complete denial about
I love energy
the
drinks.
reality.
Full disclosure,
I just
love
like
them.
to. I just like to joke, and I like my little vices here and there. My vice is caffeine.
Yeah.
I love caffeine with a passion. I'm not really obsessed with anything else. I don't smoke. I don't drink a bunch. I don't drink right now. And I know I need to cut back on the energy drinks, but fuck it for now.
For me, it was ice cream. Ice cream,
Yeah.
every night. And then I tried to justify it by trying to calculate macros and working the ice cream in, and I dropped down to 230 this summer, and then I stopped working at the golf course, started real estate. We moved out here, and I was back up to 250 like within 2 months of living in Coeur d'Alene, and I was like, what? I can't do this again. Let's fix this, and that's when I started 75 hard, and I'm at 219 right now, by the way.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You have 300 pounds like a year ago? Or something?
March 16th of 2023, I was 300 pounds. Yeah.
Not even a year ago. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talking about the clothes too, I remember, so my thing, I would jump back and forth between like around for years, like 205 to 225 ish. And I would know when I was getting fat because my large t-shirts I would just start to look gross in them. But I would never buy extra large. Yeah. And I knew that I knew I had to lose weight when I started looking gross in my t-shirts, but I would never go buy a size up. That was my thing.
A buddy of mine, he left a triple XL at my house one time. He's a bigger dude, and he left a triple XL, and I tossed that on. It's a nice shirt, and it fit me so well, and I was like, this is a problem. Yeah. When a triple XL is like what I feel best in, look at, it was a real problem. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
So now I'm in larges again. So large is where I like to be, and that's what I'm going to try and stay in.
I love it. And just one more real quick point on that. Like I said, you made the small choices. You made the small fixes, right? Yeah. That's basically compound interest in the real estate world. Like you made these small choices by, fasting, getting rid of sugars, and being consistent and conscious with your health. Yeah. And you're able to make changes over time. And props to you, man. I think you're doing great. So
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
And and with real estate, it's very similar. Like you just have to make those take those tiny steps, continue to do them, and they might not feel like much at the time, but as you continue to do them, you're going to look up and you're going to be like, wow, I've built something. I have a portfolio, equity's kicked in. Like, my anticipation is in 10 years, I'm a net worth millionaire 5 times over. That's what I'm hoping happens. Obviously we can't predict the market, but if I feel like if I just continue, try to buy 1 property a year, maybe get lucky and get 2 in a year, it's just going to add up. And that's what's super powerful about real estate is like I've said, I'm not super intelligent, but I do understand enough to where if I continue to make those steps, it's going to pay off in the long run. It's going to,
it's very predictable.
Yeah.
It's just math. And if you continue to buy 1 house a year, you will be a net worth millionaire. You just will. Yeah. Maybe the US dollar will be worth a fraction of, in the future today, but that maybe you'll be, in the hundreds of millions and maybe you'll be common, but who knows? But I do know if you focus on buying assets that appreciate in value with debt that is fixed, you don't have to be a math genius to know it's a good idea. Just not many people understand math.
I always get very sad when I see a good friend of mine or somebody that I really like and I want to see them doing well buy like a brand new vehicle, like that is way too expensive. I'm like, man, if you just use that to buy a house or something and buy like a decent vehicle and just instead of, you don't need a $50,000 truck. Like I mean, unless you're making really good money,
unless your assets can pay for it.
Unless your assets can pay for it. Like I need to take my own advice. Like I said, I bought a truck 2 hours after I closed on my first house, and I did that because I anticipated continuing to make the money that I was making, and that didn't happen. And that was my own fault, and the truck became kind of a liability. I will be honest about that, but it's under control now. I won't do that again. I won't go out and buy a nice shiny truck just because it's got a 10-inch lift and looks really pretty.
You still got to live though. I'm so sick of like financial gurus out there telling you what to buy when it comes to vehicles and shit. Yeah. Do what you want. Like they're not going to come to your funeral. No. Buy what you want in life. You just know that you can make it work with other ways. But it's, I hate when people like just I drive a Ford Taurus and I've always driven a Ford Taurus and I'm a millionaire and they like parade around like it's like, okay, cool. Like I like nice things and I know I can die at any time as long as you can afford it. Yeah. I don't care.
Well, that's the key part is making sure you can afford it. Right. Like you don't want to go out and buy something you can't afford. I mean, if you can afford it and your assets pay for it or even come close to paying some of it, then go do it.
Yeah. Do it.
All right. So speaking of doing it, I think this would be a good time to transition into our final questions. What do you think, Nick?
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for pulling us in, Jeremy.
No. I was like, they're going off the rails here. I got to save them somehow. So
buy vehicles.
Liabilities. And I'm like, this isn't going to resonate well with a lot of people. Yeah. All right. So Sean, we do just some kind of wind down questions at the end. I'm sure you've heard the show before, but first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you. Yeah. I really appreciate your journey and what you've gone through and what you're going to continue to go through, because I think it's the hard things in life that make you who you are. And you're doing hard things, and you're going to come out on top of a lot of them. So congrats on that, and thank you again for being here. I'm going to move the mic back and forth between us, but the first question I have for you is, if you have one business or investing book you recommend every single investor out there read, what would that be?
One business or investing book? I would, I could be cliche and say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mm-hmm. I would say no. It's an amazing book. Everyone should read it. It's a foundational book. I really like The Richest Man in Babylon. Me too. It's a great read. It's a beautiful story, I think, and it has a lot of nuggets and things that can help you along. Especially if you don't have any clarity, it gives you a lot of structure on what you should be doing. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a foundational book where, it's got like the 10 commandments, like thou shalt not spend more than thy make, thou shalt save 1/10, or thou shalt not, it's, I need to go back and reread that one for sure, but that was definitely a very good book. Next question for you is, if you had $30 million just randomly gifted to one of your bank accounts, what would you spend it on?
The first thing I would do is buy a big old plot of land, because you can never have enough land. I think it's going to be the rarest commodity to come by here soon. But I would do that, and I would build a bunch of houses and sell them to my friends and have a compound, and then probably invest the rest in real estate, at least a huge portion of it into real estate. Probably buy some land in the Caribbean, and it'd mainly go towards real estate.
I love that. Next question for you is, how do you define success?
How do I define success? I think it's just successful people constantly, they just push themselves to be better. I don't think it's a financial number. I think there's obviously some people will be happy. Some people will never be happy with the amount of money they make. They want to keep making more and more. But I think it's just that pursuit of bettering yourself, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. But I think when you stop trying to be better and just be real with yourself, I think you fail. Like, just keep trying to improve your life, those around you. That's what a successful person should do, I think.
Yeah. So, nice. That's a really good answer, by the way. I heard I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard success is a verb. Yeah. Right? It's not a noun. It's not something that just happens once. It's something you have to keep doing. And that pursuit of excellence is definitely a way for someone to feel successful. So nice answer. I love that one. Next question is, when you're not cutting lawn and you're not real estate investing or being an agent, what do you like to do with your free time?
So I really like video games. I get terribly addicted though, so I just play a couple games on my phone. I also like basketball. I love basketball. I didn't play it for about 3-4 years there while I was going through my overweight journey, and I've recently got back into it, and it is Tuesdays and Thursdays. I look forward to those days like no other. I don't hurt my ankles anymore or my knees because I'm not grossly overweight. Like I couldn't do it because I would hurt myself. I also enjoy lifting and spending time with my kids. Like I went from 0 kids 4.5 years ago to 3 kids, and they are my favorite thing to spend time with. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Very nice.
Next question for you is, where can people find out more about you?
Probably Facebook or Instagram. I want to increase my social media presence on other platforms as well, but for now, Facebook Messenger seems to be where people like to reach out to me. So yeah.
All right. Well, Sean Little, everybody. Once again, Sean, thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Nick, do you have any other closing thoughts? Or if not, let's wrap this thing up.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Sean, for being here
Yeah,
again.
thanks for having me, guys.
We're really proud of what we've seen you accomplish the last few years. I hope you are as well, and I hope you keep on it. And don't be buying those large shirts anymore.
No more triple X's for me.
That's right.
No more.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We will see you next week.
Peace.
Bye.
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.